GSM is short for grams per square meter. And this is your secret weapon to buying fabrics online. In the age of all of our physical fabric stores closing down, we are forced to buy our fabrics online. And isn't it just so hard? I mean, when you can't touch and feel your fabric, how do you translate that to a computer screen? In this video, I'm going to arm you with all the knowledge, your secret weapon, that is GSM, so you can start ordering online fabrics with confidence and make your fabric delivery day a happy day when the delivery person comes with your new fabric. Welcome, sewing friends. It's lovely to see you all here because this video is just for you. You all said, I had so many requests for, yes, please, ordering fabrics online is so hard. Help me, help me. So here we are making this video. And I'm not surprised because we are in the midst of all of the much loved Joanne stores closing. I say much loved, I haven't actually been into one myself. I'm in Australia, as you know, but all through the US, I know many of you are struggling with your local stores closing down. And if you live rurally, just like I do in Australia here, there are none. I recently had there was only 2 stores in town and one of them closed recently here too. There is nowhere to buy fabric. And so we are being forced online to buy them. But trust me, it's not a bad thing because really, here's what I find. Your local store that you can maybe find, maybe you don't have one at all, and that's fine, but is maybe good for you, like cheap basics, if you want something like that, right? But all the online stores is where all the good stuff's at. Let me tell you, honestly, it's going to open up a world of luscious, gorgeous fabrics that you didn't know existed. Yes, they might be a bit more expensive, but you get what you pay for. The availability that you have online is amazing. But the really hard thing is we need to be able to buy something that usually we touch and feel and say whether do we like it or not on a computer screen, and it's really hard. So we need to start translating or learn how to decipher things from a computer screen on what that means in real life. So this is just the beginning. I'm going to do a series of videos about ordering fabrics online. So stick to the end to see how you can get all of your further questions answered. But today's we are focusing in on GSM because this is the absolute key. So what is GSM? As I said, means grams per square meter. And now I know what you're thinking. What on earth is a meter? I don't use meters. That doesn't matter. Trust me, it does not matter. If you think of it like a yard, it's close enough. And for these intents and purposes, we're not actually measuring anything, so it doesn't matter. What you need to do is familiarize yourself with the numbers and what they mean, as in weights of fabric. So it means how many grams per square meter, so meter by meter, think of it like yard by yard, square. How many grams does that weigh, right? Because the weight of the fabric tells us then how thick, how heavy, how light that fabric is, how thick, how thin, and it tells us so much that we need to know when we're ordering online on a computer screen. This is absolute key. So I'm going to go into great detail in explaining some of these so you start to get an idea, and also how you can learn yourself, how you can teach yourself what these numbers mean. So first of all, yes, different fibers do have different weights. So polyester weighs less than wool does. So if you have, say, a fabric this thick in polyester, it's going to weigh less than this same fabric, this thickness in wool will weigh more. But don't let that confuse you or get in the way, because it's not that important to worry about that, because it's reflective in the weight. We know how heavy it is and how thick with the wools and things like that. But I know some of you are going to be asking technical questions like that, and yes, so it does affect it in that way. But on the first level, level 1, let's not pay too much particulars to that. What are we looking at here? First of all, let's start with what are the weights numbers? All right, so we're talking GSM, grams per square meter. So you can range from 30 or 40 GSM all the way up to 300, 400. So it's a big range, right? And so we're talking about what kind of fabrics are in that. You might find something super light and sheer, like this silk cotton is probably somewhere on the 60 GSM or something like that, right? You can see this is basically like air. And you can see somewhat sheer. because it is so light. Next level, this lovely cotton voile is probably something like 100, 110. I'm just taking a guess. But you can see it's markedly heavier than the last one. It's still very light. And if we look up to the light, is still semi-sheer. I can still see through this one. Another step up would be about 200 GSM, where we get to this kind of quilting cotton. So 150, 200 is sort of your middle medium weight ground, right? Around that 180. And that would be something like this rose one here. You can see it's heavier than the ones that we just had. It kind of just flops down. It's a lot more structured. It's definitely opaque to look at. It's not see-through. And you can see it's just thicker in nature. You step up even further and you get to something about 280, 250 GSM. And you're starting to get a lot of weight to it. You can see how heavy this is. It just drops down straight away, right? And is thicker to hold. You can see it's crunchier, just thicker and heavier in weight. Then you go to the really heavy weight, and we're talking 300, 340 GSM, right? Denims, drills, thick wools, you know what I mean, right? And they are so thick. You can see this is like heavy and it is thick. A really good example I have for you is these two green linens. They are both linen, plain woven. One is light. I think this one was around 150 GSM, and this one here is about 280, I think, from memory. Online, these would look exactly the same, right? Because they're same color and they would look the same. But hopefully you can even see here the difference in the sheerness through them. And you can see this one is heavier, stiffer, thicker, whereas this lighter, the lower GSM, is much lighter and thinner, scrunches up into a tiny little ball, whereas this one does not as much. It's, again, hard to show on camera film. You're still on a computer screen, remember? So I'm trying my very best to explain these to you so that you can see these would appear the same on screen. But knowing the GSM means I know that this one is going to be more this weight, and I know that this one is going to be more this weight when I read the computer screen. So the next question is, how do we use this when ordering fabrics online? So unfortunately, not all fabric stores are going to have it. In fact, I would say less than half will offer you GSM. Unfortunately, more and more are and will as time goes on, because it is so important. You have to list it. So if your fabric store does not list GSM, well, you're taking a risk. Order samples or things like that. You can maybe email them, ask them if they know the GSM. Otherwise, you are taking a bit of a risk. And it's probably going to be a cheaper fabric, and maybe it's worth the risk. Or really good websites will tell you the GSM for sure, because they know it's important. So a good website will list the GSM for you on the listing. Sometimes you have to find it, sometimes it's written in plain view, but it should be there for all good websites. So finding the GSM will allow you to see maybe it's 100% cotton, but if the GSM is 150, you know that might be like a light quilting cotton. Whereas if the GSM is 300, you know that's going to be more like a drill and thicker for a bottom weight, for example, rather than the lighter one is more of a top weight, right? You see where we're going with this? Even though, it might look the same in the pictures, or it's just all you can see is the pretty print from the picture, right? Now, there's tons more to ordering, obviously, fabrics online. And the real key is the GSM, as we said, but it goes in the name. You need to know fabrics first before you buy them online. So the more you know about fabrics as it is, the better, and you can translate that information of fabrics to being online. So if you are ready to take a deep dive there, and I promise you it will serve you so well in your journey, knowing things like the difference between natural and synthetic fibers, what a fabric is, what all the names are, right? Going deep diving into GSM, knowing ironing temperatures, care temperatures, knowing the properties, what's hot, what's cool, what's not. All of these things are so important, because how do you know drape and structure, right? What's good for your project? Ultimately, all of the things about fabrics, so that you can really know what is good and appropriate for your project. I have tons of actual courses in Vintage Sewing School. This is what I do, and where I take a deep dive, and would love to help you really learn out fabrics if you're ready for that. I'm going to leave some links down below on how you can come join, so you can pick the best fabrics for your projects. Okay, so how do you learn this? Because I've thrown all these numbers at you and you're like, all right, I get it. Lighter means heavier and heavier, numbers, okay. But how do you know what that means? What does that feel like? So keep a sewing journal. You need to keep a record. Write down, think of it like a line, right? So you've got, just draw a big line on a piece of paper in your sewing journal. Start with here, you've got lightweight, and down here, heavyweight. And then in the middle, a midweight. And I would go further and I would put in the middle, close to the middle, a medium lightweight and then medium heavyweight, because you'll find most of the fabrics you want to sew with are pretty much here. And then anything outside of those are what we call difficult or evil or nightmare or all those sorts of things. And I've made another video specifically on how to sew those ones. I'm going to link that down below for you too. So draw this line, this scale that you've got for your fabrics. And now every time you get a fabric that you know the GSM, you literally pin it on there. Write it down what the GSM is, and you can put it on this scale. Keep a nice bigger piece for reference as well. It's really important, but you can also put it on this little scale to help you then be able to decipher what the different weights are in a little scale, like a quick reference, plus a nice big piece for later so you can kind of really scrunch it up too. So how do you do this? Go into stores if you can and have a look. Some rolls might have the GSM written on them, some might not. But if you do find any, doesn't mean if you're going to buy it, if you hate it, that's fine. We want to know the GSM of it. Get a sample. Buy the little slither of 10 centimeters if you have to, just to put in your sewing journal. Go online. Order samples. Order samples that are listed with the GSM listed on them. Keep them as a reference written down so you can start learning. Okay, this is what 200 woven cotton feels like. This is what a 160 knit poly feels like. Right? And you can start building your knowledge base with this sort of sewing journal reference guide, and keep that little timeline like scale for a quick reference as well. So then when you're looking online, you can come back to your journal and reference those fabrics that you have been able to find, and it'll grow over time. So it's just your knowledge of GSM, you think that's so far away. It's not. Just order lots of samples and your sample book will grow pretty quickly. As I said, there are lots of other factors in ordering fabrics online, but GSM is the biggest secret weapon, the number one key to doing that. Now, I am going to make a follow-up video to this about ordering fabrics online, and I would love to hear from you below. What are your biggest struggles? What questions specifically do you have for me? Do you want to know about how to buy fabrics online? Put them in the comments. I'm going to read through them all and do a follow-up video on this in a little bit about like how to buy fabrics online to really help you out, because I think we could all use it in this day and age with all our fabric stores, physical fabric stores closing down. Okay, my sewing friends, until next time, happy sewing. Bye.